At 73 years old, Terry Michael Murphy, the son of legendary war hero and Hollywood actor Audie Murphy, finally broke decades of silence. For much of his life, Terry carried a private burden, one that involved the most decorated combat soldier of World War II, a man whose image belonged as much to the American people as it did to his family. "My father was larger than life to the world," he reflected. "But to me, he was just Dad." What he reveals even now forces us to reconsider the line between public myth and private man. To understand what Terry has carried, we must first understand the father he inherited. Audie Leon Murphy was born on June 20th, 1925 in Kingston, Texas, the seventh of 12 children to Emmett Barry Murphy. A poor sharecropper and Josie Belle Killian, Audie grew up in unrelenting poverty. His family lived in a ramshackle farmhouse, often going without enough food. As the Great Depression tightened its grip, Audie's childhood became a battle against hunger and survival. From the start, hardship shaped him. When his father abandoned the family, young Audie was forced to drop out of school in the 5th grade to work odd jobs, picking cotton, shining shoes, and helping to support his younger siblings. He became skilled with a rifle, often hunting small game to feed the family. This self-reliance forged the qualities that would one day make him a soldier: accuracy, resilience, and a stubborn will to survive. But his childhood was not only defined by scarcity. Despite being small in stature, he would never grow taller than 5'5". Audie possessed a commanding presence. Teachers remembered his sharp eyes and restless energy. Friends recalled a boy who never backed down, even when the odds were stacked against him. In June 1940, tragedy struck. Audie's mother, Josie, passed away when he was just 15 years old. The loss devastated him, leaving the family scattered. This moment marked the end of whatever innocence remained in his youth. "She was the only one I ever really depended on," he later admitted. His early education had been cut short, but Audie found another kind of calling. When the United States entered World War II after Pearl Harbor, Audie was only 16, but he lied about his age in an attempt to enlist. Rejected repeatedly for being underweight and underage, he persisted until the Army finally accepted him in 1942. The boy who had once hunted rabbits in Texas fields was now on his way to the killing fields of Europe. Before the world knew him as a hero or as a Hollywood star, Audie Murphy was simply a poor Texas farm boy with nothing but grit, a rifle, and a fierce devotion to his family. And it was this combination that set the foundation for the man who would become both a legend and eventually a complicated father figure whose son carried a secret for decades. The story of Audie Murphy's career is one of astonishing transformation, from battlefield hero to Hollywood leading man. Yet his rise was anything but smooth. After returning from the war, Audie was haunted by the ghosts of combat. By the time he left the service, he had earned every major U.S. military combat award for valor, including the Medal of Honor. He was hailed as America's most decorated soldier. Newspapers splashed his photo across front pages, and he briefly became a national symbol of courage. But symbols cannot easily find jobs. Initially, Murphy struggled. With no formal education, limited experience, and a restless mind troubled by nightmares, he drifted between odd opportunities. He tried selling war bonds, dabbled in writing, and even considered a military career. But Hollywood soon came calling. It was James Cagney, the legendary actor, who first took interest in him. Cagney invited the young veteran to Los Angeles, believing his story and demeanor could translate to the screen. For 2 years, Murphy endured rejection after rejection, appearing in minor roles, often typecast as a soldier. Studio executives doubted his slight build and quiet demeanor could command audiences. His breakthrough came in 1949 with Bad Boy, where he played a troubled orphan, a role that drew from his own turbulent past. Audie's raw authenticity caught attention, yet it was in 1955, with the release of To Hell and Back, that his career exploded. The film was a dramatization of his own wartime memoir, and Murphy played himself. Audiences flocked to theaters, turning the film into Universal's highest-grossing picture for 2 decades. Watching him relive his own battles on screen gave viewers an unparalleled glimpse into the reality of war. From there, Murphy carved a steady career, mostly in westerns. He starred in films like The Red Badge of Courage, 1951, directed by John Huston, which showcased his dramatic potential, and a long list of odors such as Destry, 1954, and The Samarin Kid, 1952. Though not the tallest or most commanding actor, Murphy's sincerity gave his characters depth. He wasn't a swaggering cowboy. He was a man audiences could believe had been tempered by real hardship. Still, Hollywood wasn't always kind. As studios shifted focus in the 1960s, Murphy's roles diminished. He faced financial strain, gambling debts, and struggled against being typecast. He was never fully accepted into Hollywood's elite inner circle, despite his fame. He worked tirelessly, even turning to television appearances, songwriting, and ranching to support himself. What set Audie Murphy apart, however, was not just his filmography, but his authenticity. Unlike most stars of the era, his fame wasn't built on illusion. It was grounded in a reality audiences respected. He was both a soldier and an actor, carrying the weight of both identities on his shoulders. Yet behind the on-screen charisma and heroic legacy, his private struggles loomed larger. These battles, both personal and professional, would profoundly shape the family he raised, and the son who, decades later, would reveal the truth about the father America thought it knew. The private life of Audie Murphy was as complex as his career. Despite his fame, he remained guarded, never fully allowing the public to glimpse the man behind the medals and movie posters. Murphy's first marriage was to actress Wanda Hendricks in 1949. Hendricks, known for her roles in films like Ride the Pink Horse, seemed to represent Hollywood glamour, while Audie embodied gritty realism. Their union, however, was troubled from the start. Audie's wartime trauma, what today we recognize as post-traumatic stress disorder, manifested in sleepless nights and bursts of temper. Hendricks later recalled his intense paranoia, admitting he sometimes slept with a gun beneath his pillow. The marriage lasted barely a year, ending in divorce in 1950. In 1951, Murphy married Pamela Archer, a former airline stewardess. This second marriage proved more stable and enduring. Together, they had two sons, Terry Michael Murphy, born in 1952, and James Shannon Murphy, born in 1954. Pamela, often described as patient and resilient, provided the domestic steadiness Audie desperately needed. Their marriage lasted until his death in 1971. For Terry and James, growing up with Audie as a father was both awe-inspiring and bewildering. On one hand, their dad was a national hero, immortalized on screen. On the other, he was a man grappling with demons invisible to the public eye. Terry would later recall nights when his father's nightmares left him pacing the hallways, reliving battles long past. He was a hero to the world, Terry once said, but to us, he was someone we worried about. Despite these struggles, Murphy's love for his children was evident. He took them fishing, told them stories, and instilled in them a sense of resilience. But the weight of his psychological battles often created a distance. Terry, in particular, grew up sensing there was more to his father than the newspapers celebrated. Outside of his marriages, there were whispers of romantic connections. In Hollywood, Murphy was occasionally linked to co-stars, though none of these relationships reached the tabloid frenzy that engulfed other actors of his era. He was, by most accounts, more comfortable with a quiet evening at home than the glamorous parties of Beverly Hills. Yet the most significant relationship in Murphy's life was not romantic. It was with his memories. Friends often noted how he could shift from charming storyteller to brooding silence without warning. This emotional pendulum placed strain on his family life. Even as Pamela remained steadfast, as Terry grew older, he began to see the contradictions in his father's existence. A man celebrated for courage but struggling privately with fear. A star admired for his charisma, but retreating from the spotlight at home. These observations would eventually form the basis of the revelation he carried well into his 70s, a revelation about what it truly meant to be the son of Audie Murphy. Now, for the first time, at 73 years old, Terry Michael Murphy stepped forward to reveal the secret he had guarded for decades. After years of silence, he wanted the world to understand what it was really like to grow up as the son of America's most decorated soldier. People see the medals, the movies, the fame, Terry explained, but they don't see the man who woke up in cold sweats, who feared going to sleep because of what he might dream. The truth Terry revealed was both simple and staggering. Behind the public image, Audie Murphy lived with unrelenting trauma. He had post-traumatic stress disorder at a time when the term didn't even exist in public discourse. "We didn't call it PTSD back then," Terry said. "We just called it Dad's bad nights." He described how his father often paced the house, chain-smoking, eyes darting as if he were still on a battlefield. He sometimes slept with a loaded pistol under his pillow, fearing an ambush in his own home. Terry admitted that as a child, he didn't understand. It frightened him, but as he grew older, he recognized it as the invisible cost of war. What Terry had kept secret was not merely his father's struggle, but the way it shaped their family. Out of respect for Audie's legacy, Terry and his brother rarely spoke publicly about it. "We wanted people to remember him as a hero," Terry confessed, "not as someone broken." But the truth is, he was both. After decades of speculation, Terry's words confirmed what many historians and biographers suspected, that the medals and films came at a price too high for any man to bear alone. His father's strength was real, but so was his suffering. Yet Terry's revelation was not meant to tarnish his father's memory. Instead, it was to humanize him. "He wasn't invincible," he said softly. "He was human. And maybe that makes him even more of a hero." In sharing this secret, Terry offered not only a glimpse into his father's life, but also a broader commentary on the hidden costs borne by countless veterans. His story underscored the silence many families kept, afraid to speak of the unseen wounds of war. The emotional weight of this reveal reframed Audie Murphy's legacy. He was not just the embodiment of courage in battle or the face on a movie poster. He was also a man who carried scars that never fully healed. Terry's confession allowed the world to see his father more completely, both the legend and the man, both the victor and the vulnerable. The later years of Audie Murphy's life were marked by both endurance and decline. Despite financial struggles, he continued working, appearing in films and television, even dabbling in country music songwriting. He spoke out about the need for better care for veterans, though at the time his pleas went largely unheard, but his personal battles persisted. By the late 1960s, Murphy faced mounting debts and bouts of depression. Still, he remained dedicated to his family, determined to provide for them despite his own burdens. On May 28, 1971, tragedy struck. While flying on a business trip, Murphy's plane crashed near Roanoke, Virginia. He was only 45 years old. The news stunned the nation. The boy who had survived so many wartime battles had been claimed not by bullets or bombs, but by fate. He was buried with full military honors at Arlington National Cemetery, where his gravesite remains one of the most visited today. For his sons, the loss was profound. Terry was only 19 at the time, thrust into adulthood without the father who had loomed so large over his life. Decades later, he admitted that part of his silence stemmed from grief. He couldn't bear to speak of the man he lost so young. In the years since, Audie Murphy's legacy has only grown. Historians continue to study his wartime feats, while film enthusiasts revisit his Hollywood career. His memoir, To Hell and Back, remains a definitive account of combat. But thanks to Terry's revelation, we now understand that his story is not just one of valor, but also of vulnerability. Today, Murphy is remembered as both a warrior and a warning. He embodied the heights of heroism, but his struggles remind us of the unseen costs of war. Veterans returning from battle still face challenges similar to those that haunted him. In this sense, Audie Murphy's life is not only history, it is a mirror reflecting ongoing truths. For Terry, speaking out at 73 was an act of both remembrance and release. "I want people to know the whole man," he said. Not just the hero, not just the actor, but the father who tried his best, even when the weight of the world was on him. As we look back on Audie Murphy's remarkable journey, From the cotton fields of Texas to the battlefields of Europe, from Hollywood sets to the halls of memory, we see a life defined not only by medals and movies, but by humanity itself. In the end, perhaps that is his greatest legacy. That courage is not the absence of fear, but the will to carry on despite it. And for the son who finally shared his secret, it is a reminder that even legends are human, and it is in that humanity where their true greatness resides.